After the Danmanra incident and Turbo Granny's departure from the Ayase residence, Kami-High outcast Koki Yukishiro sets her sights on stealing Momo's power, backed by her small band of minions. But the assault isn't on her own will. An unknown teacher's pulling the strings. As the curses plaguing Momo, Unji, and Daiki grow steadily worse, the Orchestrator pushes them to the brink, unleashing relentless waves of knife-wielding subordinates to drain their strength. Living on nothing more than a grain of rice and a few drops of water, Momo jokes that it must be what an astronaut feels like, earning a smile from Vomola. Thinking she can finally relax, she takes comfort in being too small to attend school, until Seiko insists she keep up with her studies and orders her to go in secret. Vomola offers to carry Momo in her backpack, but Momo snaps that she isn't a toy. Seiko warns that Momo's size would cause a panic if anyone saw her, so she must stay out of sight. When Momo protests going to school, Seiko asks to see her report card, prompting Momo to give in and head to class, where she meets Vomola, Okarun, and Ira, the latter amused by her tiny predicament. In class, Okarun quietly tells Momo to keep her voice down and stay hidden, asking Vomola to keep watch. But when Momo calls out to a male student, he assumes Vomola was speaking, only for her to promptly turn him down. The mix-up confirms Momo's belief in fairy lore. Humans long ago could see fairies, and even now, people can perceive them if they strain their eyes hard enough, though most have lost this ability. Okarun blurts out that he has an idea, earning a sharp scolding from the teacher, much to Momo's amusement. Later at Okarun's request, they gather in the library to research fairies, whether in novels, history books, or myths, hoping to find a cure. Rin discovers a book and notes that fairies often appear in mythological motifs, with socially vulnerable people depicted as small, easily overlooked presences. Momo apologizes for the trouble, but Okarun assures her they're helping simply because they want to. He then asks if Turbo Granny has returned home, and Momo says no, adding that Seiko misses her, a sentiment they both understand. Momo also mentions they can't use Turbo Granny's powers anymore, but Okarun reminds her it was a curse after all. She then asks if he has recovered his Kintama, and he confirms that he has. After mentioning that his Kintama have recovered, a blushing Okarun brings up his earlier confession. Flustered, Momo asks to postpone the topic until she's back to normal, but insists he remain faithful in the meantime. When Okarun questions why, since they're not officially dating, Momo grows angry, shouting into his left ear. It's then, across the shelves, that she notices a small, gnome-like figure perched atop a bookshelf. Upon being noticed, the small mysterious figure quickly vanishes from Momo's view, prompting her to alert Okarun and urge him to pursue it, thinking it might be a tiny elderly man. While Okarun believes she saw the well-known cryptid, often called the Old Man, Momo suspects that it could be a fairy, or the same old man frequently reported by celebrities, potentially connected to her condition. When the bell signals the end of break, Momo decides to stay in the library to continue searching. Okarun, Ira, and Gigi voice concerns about leaving her alone, but she reassures them she'll be fine. As her friends leave, Momo feels grateful for her friend's support and hopes to return to normal soon. During gym class, Kinta invites Okarun to be his partner, aiming to beat him based on Okarun's mediocre 50-meter dash time of 9 seconds from junior high. However, Hase, the mean student who used to bully Okarun, decides to team up with him instead, both mocking Okarun and trying to look cool. When Hase asks Kinta if he's okay with pairing up with Okarun, Kinta quickly dismisses him. Hase then tells Okarun that his 50-meter dash time is about 6 seconds, causing Okarun to sigh, expecting to be outpaced. However, to everyone's surprise, when the race begins, Okarun finishes in 5.8 seconds, even shocking himself. He continues to excel in other activities, handball throw, standing long jump, shuttle run, and more, catching the gym teacher's attention, who suggests he try out for the baseball team. Unaware of how much effort he had put into overcoming past challenges, Okarun wonders how he's become so fit without Turbo Granny's power. Meanwhile, Momo realizes her psychic powers are unaffected by her small size and uses them to move through the library, searching for the tiny man she spotted earlier. Her hunt is interrupted when a female student enters, knife in hand, looking for her. Momo hides, questioning who the girl is, why she's searching for her, and how she knows about her shrunken state. Using her powers, Momo pushes books onto the student, but the girl quickly knocks them away, one toppling toward Momo as she anxiously shouts, "Yield! Yield to me." The student briefly discovers Momo under a book, but with the bell ringing, she loses track, lifts the book, and gives up. From atop a bookshelf, Momo watches her leave, still wondering who the mysterious girl was. Elsewhere, Okarun rushes back to the library to check on Momo, but on the way, he runs into Sanjo. He warns Okarun not to run in the hallways to avoid collisions and decides to follow, questioning Okarun about where he's going and what secrets he's hiding. Okarun asks to explain later, but Sanjo refuses, lecturing him on noise, metronome synchronization, and bacteria. He explains that 90% of human cells are bacteria, and instead of having true free will, a person's actions are determined by the characteristic vibrational frequencies of their bacteria. Okarun turns and acknowledges, amazed. Sanjo then asks if he yields to this knowledge, and Okarun reluctantly consents, while Sanjo's eyes widen with anticipation, imagining capturing Okarun's powers like he did with the fairy tale card Yokai. Okarun continues toward the library, and though surprised, Sanjo briefly draws a small knife before quickly pocketing it and walking on. After learning from Momo about the girl searching for her with a blade, Ira hides Momo in her blazer pocket to identify the assailant later while they search the school. Okarun asks Momo for distinguishing features and learns the girl had long hair and demanded she yield. Hearing this, Okarun recalls his earlier conversation with Sanjo, where the same word was used. Up close, his conversation with Momo leads Ira to interpret him as intentionally speaking near her chest. Okarun tries to refute it but lets her believe it, only for Momo, frustrated, to call him Four Eyes, then use her powers to hit him with a chair, demanding that Ira leave him alone while the rest of the gang continues to act silly. Meanwhile, the girl pursuing Momo hears a voice seemingly from behind a door, chastising her previous actions and instructing her to first compel her target to yield to steal her power effectively. Though the girl admits she hasn't fully mastered control over it, the voice insists she must surrender to it to become the self she seeks. She is then surrounded from behind by dozens of small figures resembling the tiny entity Momo had encountered earlier in the library. In a flashback, as she heads to class, Momo's hunter, Koki Yukishiro, accidentally bumps into someone in the hall, but goes unnoticed. In the classroom, she spots a female classmate sitting in her seat and tries to inform her, but the girl dismisses her, claiming it's just the voice of a nearby ghost. Undeterred, Koki chooses to stand at the back of the room. At home, she overhears her family praising her sister, Alice, for winning first prize while criticizing Koki for lacking talent and failing to live up to her former potential. Sitting in her room, surrounded by the many piano awards she's earned as a child, Koki reflects on where she went wrong, picturing her younger self receiving standing ovations and winning prizes. Now, desperate for recognition, she anonymously posts a provocative photo of herself online. Later, someone approaches her, knowing she is the girl in the photo. Though Koki denies it, the person remains skeptical and offers to keep her secret from her parents and authorities, on one condition involving the power extraction knife he presents to her. Meanwhile, in the present, the History and Culture Research Club arrives in Class E to investigate the girl hunting Momo, but the classmates provide no confirmation of her presence. After briefly attempting to draw attention through her conspicuous absence, Momo is urged by Ira to focus on locating the girl. Momo describes her as having long hair that hides her face. Just as Ira finishes describing someone like that, Momo suddenly spots the girl, and Koki notices Momo as well, immediately leaving the classroom. Momo informs Ira, Okarun, and Kinta, prompting a chase. Gigi, fooling around, and Vamola are warned by Ira that a fleeing girl is the one they're after and join the pursuit. Sanjo catches the club running in the hall and orders them to stop, which they comply with, at least until they're out of his sight. Tracking Koki to another classroom, Momo instructs Gigi and Vamola to cover the rear exit while Okarun and Ira enter from the front. Not wanting Ira to be endangered by Koki's knife, Okarun takes the lead. However, when they enter, the room is empty. Koki is nowhere to be found. Upon entering the vacant classroom, Okarun and Ira are startled when the door slams shut behind them. Kinta, assuming Okarun is purposely excluding him, opens the door, only to see a normal class in session, leaving him baffled as to where the two actually are. Gigi and Vamola look on, equally puzzled. Inside, Momo quickly alerts Okarun and Ira that they've stepped into empty space. Confused, Okarun questions how this is possible without Turbo Granny's powers, only to notice part of his body fused to a classroom prep table. Ira shifts into her acrobatic silky form and tells him to stand back, while Momo warns her to be cautious. Empty space means aliens are involved. But as Ira moves in, she's shocked to find part of her skirt fused to Okarun's pant leg. Before they can react, Momo warns of incoming kitchen knives. She and Ira block the attack, but Ira, upon getting too close to Okarun, is shocked to find her clothes melding together with his. Ira misreads the situation as a sign they're engaged, provoking Momo's fury and a demand that they separate. Jokes aside, that's when Momo spots tiny creature pygmies busily sewing Okarun and Ira's clothes together. Using her psychic powers, she manipulates the kitchen knives to cut them free. She remarks on their incredible knitting speed and warns Ira about pygmies on her right shoulder, but neither Ira nor Okarun can see them. Momo insists they're everywhere, encircling them with improvised classroom weapons as a stunning double-page spread reveals the pygmies swarming in from all sides from our heroes. Momo warns Okarun that pygmies are climbing all over him, while Ira, distracted, notices her skirt beginning to unravel. Though still unable to see the creatures, Ira guesses she can strike blindly with her hair manipulation, thrashing the room. The pygmies quickly tie her hair in knots, then ignite it using a burner from the prep table. Ira heeds Momo's urgent warning to unravel her hair before the flames reach her, but Okarun steps in just in time, slicing off the burning strands with the knife. He apologizes for chopping her hair, but she's grateful he saved her. Mindful of the gas in the room, Momo hands Ira a knife to free her tangled hair while she works on putting out the fire. The two block another wave of flying knives before Momo warns that there are a million pygmies in the room, some already crawling at Okarun's feet. Okarun tells her to move as he yanks off his shirt to shake them loose. The pygmies immediately knit his shirt, pants, and Ira's blazer together on the floor, immobilizing them and leaving them exposed to a barrage of knives and toothpicks. However, Momo shields Okarun from the oncoming attacks while Ira protects herself with her hair. Ira asks Momo to cover both her and Okarun from rear attacks, noting she's already stretched pretty thin, handling the pygmies herself. Fighting through the swarm, Momo deduces that their controller is hiding somewhere, and taking her out is the key. Okarun and Ira remove their upper garments to stop the stitching, while Momo orders them to keep moving, drawing the pygmies' attention. Okarun narrowly dodges another volley Momo warns him about, stunning both her and Ira with his speed. But he admits he can't keep it up, glancing down to find his left hand sewn to the floor. With Ira also trapped, they're easy targets, completely surrounded by the pygmies. Yet, Momo notices them hesitating. She grins, declaring the pygmies can't attack because of where their master is hiding. Having found the culprit, she hurls a desk at Koki Yukishiro, who is revealed hiding under a camouflage cloak. After striking Koki and realizing she had used a curtain sewn by the pygmies, Momo employs her psychic powers on a fire extinguisher to put out the flames. She then battles the pygmies, proclaiming victory over their princess, and the pygmies comply, releasing their stitches from Okarun and Ira. Relieved, Okarun asks if they're truly safe since he can't see the pygmies. Momo reassures him, pointing out that the pygmies are waving white flags signaling their surrender. However, when Momo is momentarily distracted by Ira getting close to Okarun, the pygmy sees the chance to flee with Koki. Ira uses her acrobatic silky hair to restrain them, aided by the visibility provided by the extinguisher spray, while Okarun wonders how Koki could be controlling the pygmies if she is unconscious. The pygmies then start tickling both Ira and Okarun, but Momo uses her psychic powers to throw them off and prevent the door from being opened. Meanwhile, Gigi worries about what he, Kinta, and Vamola should do since their break is almost over. Once Kinta realizes Momo, Okarun, and Ira are trapped in empty space, Gigi decides they can enter too, having Vamola use her kaiju suit as before. The three appear in empty space and panic at the sight of Koki, suspended from the ceiling. Soon after, Okarun and Ira crash out of the room toward Gigi and Kinta. Following Momo's instructions, Gigi tracks Koki as she is carried by the pygmies. When the creatures prove too fast for him, Kinta fashions a hoverboard from a cube of nanoskin and pursues them, boasting about his own glory and ridiculously asking the women to accept their love for him. His bragging is cut short when he is struck in the face by a baton wielded by Nurse Queen, who asks if the students chasing Koki are bullies. Surprised to see Queen also in empty space, Momo suspects her to be an enemy. Koki falsely accuses Gigi and the others of assaulting her, prompting Queen to assert her strict no bullying policy and demand the truth. Gigi refutes the claim, insisting that Koki was the aggressor. When Queen expresses doubt, Gigi seeks Momo's guidance. She reassures him that he doesn't need to lie and encourages him to speak honestly. Vamola steps in to clarify that Momo was the one attacked. Queen asks about the victim's whereabouts, but Momo cannot make herself heard due to her tiny size. Gigi then firmly asserts that the woman he cares for was harmed and questions Koki's motives. Koki continues to lie, claiming that all of them attacked her while she was alone and requests Queen punish them. Queen examines Koki's injuries, noting contradictions in her stories and her claimed ignorance of Gigi. Trying to cover her lie, Koki hastily says she wishes she could erase Gigi from her memory because she finds him frightening. Queen remarks on how strange it is that Koki claims she was attacked alone, even though she's surrounded by far more pygmies and holds the advantage in numbers. She explains that her ability to see spirits come from hearing students' confessions, assuring Koki she won't be judged until the truth is known. She reinforces that if something is troubling Koki, she is ready to listen to everything she has to say. Koki admits she attacked Momo and apologizes. While Momo accepts the apology, Queen slaps Koki, shocking Momo, Gigi, and Vamola. Gigi and Vamola rush to prevent further punishment from the nurse mommy. Koki admits she had posted pictures of herself online and was later coerced by a teacher to stab Momo in order to protect her secret social media account, though she cannot recall which teacher it was even though she encountered them both yesterday and today. Ira suspects she is covering for the teacher, yet Momo recalls Unji's similar experience with someone who helped him with the cursed trunk, leading Okrun to suspect the same culprit. Koki clarifies that her task was not to eliminate Momo, only to steal her power. After clarifying that her knife can only steal a person's powers under certain conditions, Koki begins feeling lightheaded and is unable to recall those conditions to answer Ira's question. Momo concludes that Koki is merely acting as an agent and that the evil teacher who sent her likely did something to prevent her from revealing information. She then asks Koki if the power was originally hers, but Koki replies that it wasn't and explains that the teacher granted her the ability to see pygmies by cutting her with one of his many knives. She brushes the pygmies off her arm when they try to treat her, and despite Momo's clarification that they were only trying to help, Koki refuses to acknowledge or be pursued by them, wishing only to return to a normal life. Feeling weighed down by her tragic circumstances, Koki listens as Queen shares her research into the pygmies, prompted by a case where a student became frightened upon seeing one. Queen explains that pygmies are forgotten people, driven from the surface, who long to be acknowledged. This longing compels them to pledge loyalty to those who can see them, a sign that good fortune may follow, and Queen has been counseling the student who now seeks them out. Moved to tears by her own loneliness, Koki watches as the pygmy stitch the words "Hang in there, Koki" for her. Confused, Momo concludes that Koki didn't create the pygmies since they have existed since ancient times. Koki agrees, explaining that's what the pygmies themselves say, and Momo realizes that Koki can understand them to some extent. She then asks if the pygmy knows how to store someone who's been shrunk, but Koki, looking sad, says none of them do, leaving Momo disappointed. Ira, curious about the knives that can steal and grant powers, connects it to the cur they faced before. With no advantage in pressing Koki for more answers, Ira instructs everyone to stay together to avoid giving the enemy any openings. Momo also suggests keeping an eye on Koki in case the enemy returns, allowing them to set an ambush. Koki insists they erase her image after the culprit is caught. When Ira asks Koki for her name, her surname, Yukishiro, reminds Ira of a childhood piano competition she lost to her, a defeat that motivated her to practice relentlessly until she could win in the next meeting. Koki is equally surprised to recognize Ira, asking if she still plays piano. Ira said she quit after finding it tedious, shocking Koki, who reveals she quit because of Ira. Ira criticizes her, saying that people with talent don't need to work as hard to excel. Meanwhile, Vamola and Rin return with the repaired shirts for Okrun and Ira. Guided by Momo, Okrun tries to catch a glimpse of the pygmies, while Gigi checks on Kinta's condition. The injured student, though stating his dislike for men, reassures them he's fine after Queen apologizes for hurting him. Later on, Koki expresses her discomfort about changing out of her school uniform, as hers was rendered unusable after being coated in white from the fire extinguisher. When Ira comments on her constantly sad expression, Koki snaps back, telling her to be quiet. Kinta then proudly shows off the surveillance camera hair accessory he made from nanoskin for her, designed to identify the person who gave her the knife. Poor Gigi. Anyway, noticing Kinta's recovery, Gigi remarks on how much better he seems, and Kinta credits his improved condition on a single touch from Queen. Gigi speculates this might mean the nurse possesses some kind of power. Following Momo's instructions to keep their distance from Koki until the culprit is caught, she notices Okrun's sad expression and asks how he's doing. Okrun reflects on their failed attempt to restore her to normal after finding the pygmies and apologizes for not being helpful, vowing to do better. Momo disagrees with his self-assessment but suggests that training with Seiko could help him fulfill that vow. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, Seiko meets with two men. Ayase, a collector of cursed objects, his latest acquisition being a painting that keeps starting fires in his home, and his partner, Kashimoto, whose demeanor often irritates him. When Seiko asks Ayase to safeguard the cursed trunk containing the fairy tale card, he readily agrees. Seiko then turns to Kashimoto, asking about his research into tiny old men, and explaining how Momo entered the cursed trunk and escaped, though her body remained shrunken. She asks if he knows how to return someone to normal size. Kashimoto confirms he does, telling her the solution is the Uchiri no Kozuchi, a magical hammer owned by the deity Daikukuden, said to have made Ishon Boshi grow after he swung it. He explains that the Daikukuden and the revered god Okinushi are the same being and directs Seiko to Izumu Taisha as her destination. Grateful for the lead, Seiko prepares to depart, but before Kashimoto can offer his assistance, he is abruptly kicked away by the Shang-Chi, one among a group of similar undead creatures. Seiko defends herself against the enemy, engaging them in hand-to-hand combat. As they all come at her at once, she effortlessly slams one over the counter, kicks another one with her stilettos, knees a third in the face, and swings a bat to hit a home run, Smash Bros style. You get the picture, she's a total badass. However, amidst controlling the situation, a Minotaur cannonballs himself towards Seiko to knock her back. Acknowledging her skill and movement, the Minotaur expresses his respect, to which Seiko humbly responds that she is merely an old lady. She tosses a kettle at him, but he quickly deflects it. Using the moment to her advantage, Seiko kicks him in the groin, but she quickly realizes the incredible resilience of his hide. Even her attempt to enhance a swing with a piece of wood using the power of words proves ineffective. The Minotaur reveals that his body is made of iron, indicating that any strikes against him will only serve to strengthen his material. Following a self-inflicted blow to his knees, the Minotaur retaliates by kicking Seiko into a wall and then brutally assaulting her on the ground, asserting that as he grows stronger, regardless of whether she strikes him, he strikes himself, or he strikes her. The Minotaur really is going all out JoJo Bizarre Adventure style. After Seiko is brought down by the Minotaur's final attack, leaving the restaurant in ruins and her seemingly unconscious, he seizes the moment to draw a knife from his briefs and demands her surrender. Before the situation escalates, Ayase and Kashimoto intervene, delivering a punch that sends the Minotaur away from Seiko. Kashimoto expresses his disdain for their enemy's sudden attack, while Ayase criticizes them for jeopardizing his cursed object. Together, the two prepare to face the Shang-Chi and the Minotaur, declaring their intent to teach them a lesson about curses, with Ayase looking like Dark Shadow from My Hero Academia. I mean, come on, look at him. Anyways, Seiko rises to her feet despite the injuries sustained from the Minotaur. Ayase voices concern for her, to which she dryly compares the experience to the most dreadful osteopathy clinic imaginable, a statement that resonates with Kashimoto and leaves Ayase confused. Seiko informs them that the Minotaur's body is made of iron and grows stronger each time he is struck. The Minotaur, delighted by the chance to fight such strong opponents, shouts that his groin is heating up. Meanwhile, the remaining Shang-Chi charge forward. Seiko instructs Ayase and Kashimoto to handle the Minotaur while she retrieves her bag. Using the power of a guardian spirit, Kashimoto unleashes Afumza to knock back the Shang-Chi and deal damage. Ayase covers Seiko by manipulating his cloak of darkness, linking his shadow to the Shang-Chi's to strike them from beneath, disintegrating their bodies. The Minotaur, intrigued by Ayase's abilities, wishes to make them his own, but Ayase berates him, saying his iron body, akin to poison from a Kodoku curse, is unsuitable. Ayase attempts to pierce the Minotaur from below, but his attack fails. The Minotaur grabs Ayase's shadowy form and hurls him aside. Seiko tells Ayase to stay back while Kashimoto strikes the Minotaur with successive Afumza attacks, which Ayase believes are having an effect. Seiko warns him not to drop his guard. In retaliation, the Minotaur slams Kashimoto into a wall, encouraging him to strike harder. Ayase worries, but Seiko urges him to continue while she deals with the remaining Shang-Chi. With Ayase striking the nearby enemies using his shadow technique, the Minotaur kicks Seiko away as she approaches her bag, suspecting some trickery inside. Kashimoto attempts to strike at the Minotaur from behind, but is fiercely knocked aside by the beast. Ayase tries to grab him from below, but the Minotaur strikes him from the floor, causing the bag to be released. Seiko moves to retrieve the bag again, only for the Minotaur to grab her in a bear hug, demanding her surrender and threatening to scatter her organs. Kashimoto launches another assault with Afumza, but the Minotaur claims the strikes resonate through his iron body, making him stronger and affecting Seiko. Seiko yells for him to continue regardless. The Minotaur boasts that his iron body feels nothing, until he sees his arm broken off after Ayase extends his hands through them. Shocked, he asks why, and Ayase explains that the stronger the light, the deeper the darkness becomes. Kashimoto adds that the inability to feel pain was his downfall, sensations that allows one to measure how much the body can take before collapsing, which is precisely what happened. Still in disbelief, the Minotaur protests that the more attacks he takes, the hotter and stronger he becomes. Hot? Kashimoto replies, revealing that his flames, ice flames, can reach absolute zero, making iron vulnerable to hydrogen penetration and prone to cracking. Finally, reclaiming her bag, Seiko reflects on how much trouble the Minotaur gave her. It had been a long time since she took such a beating. She pulls out a talisman, attaches it to the Minotaur's head, and reminds him of his wish to face a worthy opponent. Panicked, the Minotaur begs her to spare him by revealing who is truly after her. Seiko cuts him off with a kick to the face that obliterates his head, asserting that he'd be better off confronting a god as a more formidable adversary. To find out what happens next in Dandadan, you're going to want to click on this video right here.